Hey everyone, I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you're staying safe and that you and your family are healthy. Right now it is March 25th at the time of this recording. This video will probably post on March 26th. If you're watching this when this video posts, I don't have to tell you what's happening. Pretty much the world is in quarantine right now. There's a lot of people out there that are very scared, and yet at the same time, there's a lot of people out there that are really stepping up to the plate and handling the situation like a boss. And so I just want to take a quick moment to say thank you to all of the doctors, the nurses, healthcare workers, truck drivers, janitors, just anyone who is, volunteering and handing out food and helping their neighbors. Thank you to everyone out there who is stepping up and showing that even in these times, when fear is all over the place, or the potential for fear is all over the place, that even now beauty exists and greatness exists. All right, so let's jump into today's episode. This is the Fuji'x XC35mm F2 lens. I bought it a couple of weeks ago, and in March. And when I first got it, I remember thinking, wow, it's very plasticky and almost a little goofy looking. What a shame, I wish it was more like retro looking. And but I gotta tell you, after using it for a little bit and putting the lens hood on it, I have to say it's been really growing on me, and I absolutely love the video and the images that I've been able to make with this lens. I think this is a lens that I'm going to be shooting with quite a bit in the future. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play this first segment. And then I have so much to say about this first segment, but I will talk about it after the segment is over, and I hope that you enjoy, okay? when I went out to shoot on that particular day, I remember thinking like, the energy is really weird today. I feel like I didn't really get anything of value, anything worth sharing. It was just like a very weird vibe. People were already quite scared because of COVID-19. They were starting to hoard toilet paper and then try to resell it for like crazy amounts. But there were no quarantines in effect. In fact, I think the first quarantine that I remember hearing of came a couple of days later when they said that anyone who was 65 and older needed to stay home. And then I think like a week or a week and a half later, they gave the stay-at-home order for everybody. And so on this particular day, it was just really weird. And some of the trains were packed, and then other trains were completely empty. And it was odd. It was just really odd. And I remember coming home and thinking, I'm not going to share this. This is going to be one of those sessions that's just going to get buried in my hard drives. And after everything that's happened, I realized that, there's some historical value, maybe not for the world, but for me. I can look at these pictures and I'm documenting these times. That notion that sometimes we take things for granted. And when we look back at them, we realize that there was a lot more value in those moments. That is something that I'm noticing in my life and adjusting to that. That being said, I want to talk about my editing process because a few people have been asking me. So when it comes to black and whites, I like the way that I edit black and white pictures. I'm not saying that it's the best, but I like my black and white processing. Color, however, I feel like my level of, when it comes to like editing color, I feel like my skill level is about here, and where I want to be is like up here somewhere, like maybe even out of the frame. And so I'm quite surprised when people ask me how I edit my color workflow. And so I'll be making some videos within the next couple of weeks on that. This previous segment that you just saw, I use split toning on every color image that you saw. And I'm just going to describe it a little bit, for those of you that are curious about that. I used green in the shadows, and then I used reds and oranges in the highlights. And then also, in order to get the look that I wanted, I did cool down the temperature quite a bit, and then I kicked it up into the magentas a little bit, and that gave me a balanced look. And so that's how I edited those. I just thought I'd share that for those of you that have been asking. What I want to do now is I want to jump into the next segment. I wanted to see what this was like, doing close focus. And so I didn't have a model to do that with or to shoot with due to this quarantine. And so I used my dog Logan, and so I just had him kind of go in the backyard, and I did some close focusing and I did some portraits of him. And I love the bokeh on this, and I love how close I can get with this, and it was a lot of fun. Let me go ahead and play that clip for you now, and then we'll jump into the last one. So that was my dog Logan. You're going to be seeing a lot of him in the next couple of episodes. I have one episode on pet photography, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you because I have a couple of special guests on that. These were obviously shot when the quarantine wasn't in effect. But anyways, this next segment that I'm going to share with you is a self-portrait session that I did a couple of days ago. I did this self-portrait session to test this lens out. And after doing it, I decided that I'm going to be doing a self-portrait video series on this channel. And here are my reasons why. Here are a couple of things that stuck out to me when doing this. One is regarding the lens. This lens makes it so much easier to shoot self-portraits. And so I thought that I would give this a try and see what this looks like at f2. And definitely I do miss the 1.2 aperture, but you know what? Not everything has to be so super shallow. And when I mean shallow depth of field. Self-portraits are quite challenging, mainly because you'll see it in some of the pictures. Because the picture's on a tripod, if I move, there'll be like more negative space behind me than there is in front of me. But the most challenging thing that I had when it came to this self-portrait session, and this is quite personal, but I'm sharing it with you because I think it's worthy of sharing. The most difficult challenge that I had was looking at myself. As a photographer, I'm used to being behind the camera, but being in front of it, I gotta say, was really, really tough on me. I didn't realize the capacity that I have for self-loathing until I saw those pictures. There were certain pictures that I saw where I felt a little, almost like disgusted with myself. And I don't feel that way about myself normally. I don't feel that way about myself when I look in the mirror. But you know, this is a phenomenon that's not unique to me. I've seen models be affected by this as well. And I have this theory that because we shoot in such high res and our eyes don't see the same way, like you could see every little, it's like every little crevice, every little wrinkle, every you know, so-called quote-unquote imperfection sticks out at you, versus when you look at somebody, you just see their face as a whole, right? As it's like focusing on the trees instead of focusing on the forest. And so, yeah, that was really, really challenging, but I decided to push forward. I had a certain idea in mind for this particular session. My goal was to use green tones. So I used a lot of greens and oranges, and I shot in my backyard with a tripod. You know, I did the best that I could with my dog like coming in and out of the frame. I shot here in this room that you see me now, in the couch in the back, with just a tiny little, these tiny little like vintage lights. And then I shot in my room using only like a slither of light that was coming in through the drapes. This lens performed really, really well in the low light situations that I put it through. And yeah, overall, I love this lens. I would totally recommend it. It is great, little companion to have. And yeah, and I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Stay positive, stay safe, and thank you so much for watching, okay? I will see you in the next video. Enjoy this last self-portrait segment that I'm going to be sharing with you now.